The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions.
Be careful, that chair is kind of...
management or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind. Where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using
I know Robert should be here.
Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation.
As far as I know, yeah.
Starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman and Robert Webb.
Hey, what's happening? It's Friday edition of Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with us. If you want to join the show, of course, we've got a big show ahead of us today, of course. I want to remind you that you can hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. So tell your friends, tag some friends, and get them involved in Black Focus Radio as well. If you miss any of the show, you can always go out and download the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. We are on about 8 different ones, so there's no reason why you should miss any of the show. And then, of course, if you've got friends in other parts of the country who can't tune in to Black Focus at this time, every day, noon to 2 p.m. Central Time, send them a link to the podcast. I think they'll find it fascinating. Simply because what's going on here in Little Rock is a microcosm of what's going on across this country. And yeah, big word there. Big love. I got a professor in. I gotta bring out my vocabulary.
Yeah, Trump just used microcosm in a speech.
Yeah, he didn't know what it meant though. So we've got a lot of stuff to talk about today, but make sure that you tune in, and appreciate everybody joining us as well on the various mediums. Also, I need you to make sure, even though you might join us on the various mediums, make sure you download the Joinet Radio app, either from the website, joinetradio.com, or go out to your app store and download that app. That way you can carry it everywhere you go, and it helps us here at the station because it helps us to monitor the listeners and where you are from. And yeah, when you listen to Joinet, we can see how many people are listening at that moment, as well as see what city you're listening from. Okay, so and that helps us with our demographics and things of that nature. All right, that's some radio stuff. All right, we've got a guest coming up here in just a moment. You've heard her on the line. You've heard us talk to her via social media, and she's finally here in studio. Dr. T. Owens. I won't call her first name unless she wants me to call her first name. Me?
Yeah. Who is T. Owens?
I mean, T. Quinn. Where did I say T. Owens?
So, yeah.
I'm
Dr.
giving you
Quinn.
another name.
Dr. Naquindra Brooks or Dr. Quinn.
Dr. Quinn. See, so you got like all them 6, 8, 9 names.
It's too many. It is.
Okay. So you go by Dr. Quinn or Dr.
I go by Dr. Quinn or Dr. Brooks.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Or Tootie.
Tootie. Okay. So that's where the T came from.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll talk to her here in just a moment. We brought up the thing about diversity a couple of weeks ago, and unbeknownst to us, we didn't know that we had a professional listening to the show. So we'll get into all of that here in just a moment as well. So as you all know, we can't start the show without doing Black Facts.
White facts?
I'm going to turn your mic off. All right, today is Black Facts. This happened February 7th, 1904. Black man and woman brutally lynched in Mississippi Delta. As hundreds of white people watched and cheered, as hundreds of white people watched and cheered, as hundreds of white people watched and cheered, a black man named Luther Hobart and an unidentified woman were tortured and killed in Doddsville, Mississippi, a Sunflower County town in the Mississippi Delta. Mr. Holbert was accused of shooting and killing James Eastland, a white landowner from a prominent wealthy local family that owned a plantation where many of the area's black laborers worked. After his shooting, James Eastland's two brothers led the posse that captured Mr. Holbert and a black woman. Some news reports identified the woman as Mr. Holbert's wife, but later research suggested she was not. Her identity remains unknown. Soon after, one of James Eastland's brothers, who led the lynch mob, had a son and named him James. That James Eastland later became Mississippi's longest-serving U.S. Senator and spent his career championing white supremacy and opposing the civil rights movement. Learn more in the Equal Justice Initiative's report, Segregation in America. Reports of the event precipitated the shooting varied. Some newspapers claimed that Luther Holbert argued with Mr. Eastland when the white man ordered him to leave the plantation, while others stated James Eastland had attacked Mr. Holbert for encouraging other indebted black workers to flee the slavery-like conditions of bonded labor. Whatever the circumstances of Mr. Eastland's death, the gruesome nature of the fate that befell Mr. Holbert and his woman companion were undisputed. According to eyewitness accounts published in Vicksburg, Mississippi Evening Post, Luther Holbert and the unnamed woman were tied to trees while their funeral pyres were prepared. They were then forced to hold out their hands and watch as their fingers were chopped off one at a time and distributed as souvenirs. Next, the same was done to their ears. Mr. Holbert was then beaten so badly that his skull was fractured and one of his eyes hung by the shred from the socket. The lynch mob next used a large corkscrew to bore into the arms, legs, and bodies of the two victims, pulling out large pieces of raw, quivering flesh. The victims reportedly did not cry out, and they were finally thrown on the fire and allowed to burn to death. The event was described as a festive atmosphere in which the audience of 600 spectators enjoyed deviled eggs, lemonade, and whiskey. Tell me again why we don't deserve reparations. Tell me again why I don't trust white people. Tell me again why what we're seeing that is going on today in America is nothing more than white supremacy unmasked. And that's our Black Fact for today.
Listening to Black Focus Radio.
Hey, Keisha Weisha.
I got a black fact.
Uh-oh.
That's my baby right there. That's my homeboy. That's a fact.
I saw your picture at the housing thing. I said, oh, she got her hair down. Oh, she look cute. All right, I'll get back to the show. All right, we're back. Keisha Cobb is in the house with us as well. We'll talk to her a little bit. But before we get started, let's welcome our guest to the studio, and that is Dr. Quinn. Do you allow your students to call you Dr. Tootie?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
She's cool like that.
Yeah, Dr. Quinn,
Very
cool,
cool.
you know. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Dr. Quinn, and why would you want to be on this show?
You know,
And you can lie too and
let
make
me
us
get it
feel
together.
good. Yeah.
No, I'm going to be blatantly honest. Blatantly honest. I want to be on the show because, first of all, I don't really have an outlet where I can say the things that I want to say.
Oh.
Unless I'm at home and I'm talking on the phone with my parents. But I need to be around other black folk who actually understand the perils of what it is that we have to endure every single day. And where I am situated in Arkansas, I don't have that specific community. And so I need to come on the show to just, vent and let it all out. So that's really why I'm grateful for being here. So thank you for having me.
Sure, and you can come and vent anytime you want.
I'm
but can you do me a favor, though? That Cliff May guy, try not to bring him next time.
I didn't bring him. I just told him I was coming, and he was like,
well, next time you come, and don't
tell
tell
him.
Don't tell Cliff you coming.
Man,
Okay.
that's cool.
I'll take all my guests back.
Hey, Cliff! When you get here, man? Hey! How you doing? How you doing? Here, you can use this. You can use this. You can use this mic right here.
Who did?
Yeah,
This one is special today. Apparently, it smells like butterscotch.
It smells like butterscotch.
What's his name?
Uh-oh.
From the last show.
I won't.
What?
I won't.
What?
I don't know. Don't.
What do you do to a microphone to make it smell like butterscotch?
I have no idea. Maybe he had butterscotch breath. I don't know.
I think it was candy.
Dr. Quinn, I'm gonna have to apologize before we get started because
I got a
Fridays-
here for it.
Fridays they usually you listen to the show on Fridays, have you? You understand then, right? So please don't take these weird people. I try to maintain. It's like herding cats, in other words. Okay, and I try to maintain some semblance of a show, but every now and then it just goes off the rails. So I'm just warning you right off the bat.
But I'm weird too, so
Right.
I fit right in because I'm very weird.
All right. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about what you do at Arkansas Tech,
Okay.
and how did you end up at Arkansas Tech?
All right, so I am
Up there with the Wonder Boys.
yes, and the Golden Sons. That's
Who are the Golden Sons?
those are the girls.
Oh,
they
they.
are two different.
Oh, we called them Wonder Girls back in the day, but.
Yeah, it's so weird. So
See, I played
weird.
at Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia,
Okay.
which they were one of our rivals. That was the old AIC.
Did y'all beat them?
We used to beat the dog out of them
Okay,
every
good.
chance we got.
Yeah, we got 2 mascots, 2 logos, 2.
Right.
Wow.
It's
They can't decide on what they want to do.
So how did you end up at Arkansas Tech?
First of all, let me say that's Cliff School.
Mm.
That's his alma mater.
Oh, the gold and green.
But I am an Alabama native, born and raised in Alabama. I did my undergrad and master's in Alabama, and then I did my doctorate at a school in North Carolina. And while I was studying that, actually in the middle of my master's program, my concentration was leadership and ethics. So while studying a lot of ethics cases is when I really got the zeal for diversity and inclusion. I didn't know how I was going to get there. I had no idea, but I just focused in on, trying to get my foot into higher ed. So I was an adjunct professor first in Alabama, and then I was able to get on at Oklahoma State University, and I was a leadership development coordinator there. But when I got there, I actually took on a lot of the social justice initiatives within my department, and that got me even more into what it is that I do now. And I kind of invited myself to be up under the wings of the VP of Institutional Diversity there, with the assistant VP. And so she taught me so much, and once I finished my doctorate, I was looking for an opportunity to move up, and I really wanted to get into the actual work of diversity and inclusion, and there was an opening at Arkansas Tech. Yeah, it was. And the rest is history. So I moved from Oklahoma State to Arkansas Tech and started serving there as the assistant dean for diversity and inclusion.
All right. So what exactly is diversity and inclusion?
Okay, so 2 different things. Diversity is actually the physical part. It's the surface level part where you are physically showing that your institution is diverse. You have the physical representation of all these different people with all these different identities at your institution in all different positions, not just your students, but your faculty and your staff as well, and your administration. The inclusion part is the actual retention part when it comes to your students and the satisfaction of your faculty and staff. So are you able to keep your students? Do your students feel welcome enough to stay there and matriculate and finish their college degree at your institution because they feel like they have a safe place, they have a welcoming space to be themselves, no matter what their marginalization is or their minority identity may be. That is the inclusion part. And what we usually suffer on is the inclusion part, because we can sometimes get the students and we can sometimes get the minority faculty and staff, but we can't keep them.
So would you say diversity and inclusion isn't panacea?
Sort of.
Why?
Well, I mean, I think because you have to consider each one separately, because we use them interchangeably a lot. And I think when you look at the diversity part, you have to be able to consider what exactly is it that I'm doing to make sure that I'm not just attracting the people here so that we can have that look, that diverse look, but what am I doing to actually keep them here? And what am I doing that's going to encourage them to speak good things about this institution so that we can attract other people to come here as well? And that's where we struggle a lot. Our university president gave her address at the first of the year, and she had to, she felt compelled to say that basically we need to make sure that we are speaking well of the institution, because that ultimately financially impacts the institution, because when we're not speaking well of the institution, we are basically turning people away, and parents aren't interested in bringing their students here. And I mean, rightfully so. It makes sense. So she's saying, basically, wherever you go, are you lie? Are you speaking well of the institution, and are you representing the institution as it should be represented? But for her to say that means that there's been a lot of negative talks about the institution. And right now, Arkansas Tech, the overall enrollment is at an all-time low.
So there are a lot of questions I have with this diversity thing.
Okay.
And certainly you've listened to the show, so I'm just going to be straightforward and to the point. It seems to me, first of all, can a white person be head of diversity and inclusion?
I'm waiting for David to come through.
Oh man, absolutely. A white person can, and they currently are ahead of diversity and inclusion.
How did that go?
You talking about where you are now?
No, not where I am,
Okay.
but it is at other
It's
schools
like,
like Fayetteville. Like, they have a lot of white leadership within their diversity department.
Wasn't Dr. Keegan head of diversity?
I have no idea.
I think so, because when she did her interview, she did a interview with the students. They came in the student body. We all got to evaluate her on when she talked about her experience or her previous employment at a university in Kansas, I think. Kansas or Nebraska. And she was talking about how she had to go to stores locally and make sure they had ethnic products and all kinds of stuff.
So if white people can be ahead of that department, why is it that I always see black people being appointed to those positions?
Because they want it to look the part. That's what that is. And I'll say this, I love what my position is supposed to be, but because of plantation politics, that...
Who? Because of what?
Plantation politics.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. So I love what my position is supposed to be, but plantation politics, the very things, the systemic, oppressive policies and procedures that these PWIs were built on, they're still operating on those things, and they're not in a hurry to dismantle those things.
A PWI, for everyone listening,
is a predominantly white institution.
predominantly white.
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 Yeah, white. Yeah.
Go ahead.
W-H-Y-T.
Like my mama said, go ahead, baby.
Yeah, but it's, as long as you are the position of a CDO or somebody who heads a diversity inclusion department or division has become a fallacy. It is a thing to check off the list. It is a thing to make the university look like it is, it cares about diversity and inclusion. It's a thing to improve the image of the university. It is one of those things where you are creating the illusion of inclusion.
Well, let's not just say universities, because we see major corporations are doing
Absolutely.
this as well.
They have CDOs as well. You're right. It's not just universities or higher learning institutions. It's definitely other businesses and corporations. But from my sphere of influence and where I've been able to work in this area, it's been higher ed. And so they create this illusion of inclusion because it looks good. And also, the more departments you have, you get more funding for that as well. So it also means money for the institution. But when it comes to PWIs, it has been my experience that they want you to be, especially when they're hiring minority or minoritized people to be over these departments, they want you to be just Black enough, or just Hispanic enough, or just LGBTQ plus enough, just enough to make the image of the university look good.
They want you to sing and tap dance.
Exactly. But once you get into wanting to ask the hard questions and have the difficult conversations and challenge them, exactly, or upset the good white folks, then it's an issue. And that's what I've run into.
So give us, if you can, I don't want to get you in trouble or anything, but give us an example of when you say that's what I've ran into. What is something that you've tried to diversify, for lack of a better term, that you've gotten pushback from the white establishment?
Absolutely. So,
by the way, you do realize that Russellville has more racist and white supremacists per capita than any other county in Arkansas, right?
I have just found that out.
Okay.
I had no idea. I didn't know Russellville existed until I got this job. So, yeah, I was in for a huge surprise. But, so an example would be, now you are seeing more predominantly white institutions draft strategic plans for diversity and inclusion. Every university, whether it's in PWI, HBCU, HSI, which are Hispanic serving institutions, any type of institution, they all have a strategic plan for the entire university. But now you're seeing PWIs draft strategic plans just for diversity and inclusion. It's supposed to be an intentional effort to say these particular stakeholders within this university are supposed to do these particular things to make sure that we are driving this institution towards inclusive excellence. So I suggested that ATU draft a strategic plan for diversity and inclusion. I said that when I first got there in 2018, and I was brushed off about it. And so I was like, well, okay. They told me that they had a diversity and equity committee, and that was something that was in the works. Well, then I found out the committee had been formed 3 years before I got there. They had never met. They've never done anything concerning diversity and inclusion. And so I pushed the issue once more and was brushed off again. And I was like, well, okay, so that's what this is going to be. We just not going to have a strategic plan for diversity and inclusion. And all of our institutions that we benchmark against, and even our sister institutions in Arkansas, they all have strategic plans for diversity and inclusion. So it wasn't until the white supremacists came on campus last April. Yeah.
That was the event where Cliff was up there causing problems.
Yeah, that was the.
Oh, okay, yeah. sending pictures of him causing problems.
No, he did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's Cliff.
I like it.
That's him.
Man,
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you, Cliff. I'm just gonna say, I'm proud of you.
He
But
burned
yeah.
back them. You wasn't scared of him?
Yeah. Well,
I was actually hoping to get to him before the cops could get around him when he showed up.
Wow.
He was late showing up.
I didn't want to go out there because I was going to jeopardize my job if I did. So,
Yeah, boy.
but yeah, it was after that is when they came to me and they were like, will you head our committee for a diversity and inclusion strategic plan? And I was like, oh, now you want it because you've been in the news, in the headlines for being this racist school, and now the world knows that. People around here have known that for the longest, but now that you're in national headlines, you want this. And I was like, okay, cool. I not only headed it and you know got it done just for the school because it desperately needs it, but I also did it for myself. Like I did it for those students. So I did that. And within that, I wanted to focus on, you say you want to be an inclusive school and you want to have the physical representation. Well, let's start from the top down because we got to have buy-in from the top down. Why are all of your board of trustee members white? When can we change that? Why are all the executive council, who are the people who are on the president's cabinet, why are they all white? We gonna diversify that? Why are all of our academic advisors white? Why is every single one of our counselors white? Why are all of our Title IX people who handle the discrimination cases based on race and gender, why are they all white?
And which includes sexual harassment.
Absolutely, absolutely. So when I start asking those questions, then it's, we don't want to really, just focus on different departments. We want to focus on diversifying the entire institution. I was like, I understand that, but the only way you're going to do that is you're going to have to focus in and you're going to have to attenuate that situation department by department. You have to do it that way.
The entire school, what were they meaning? Just the student body? Because all the boards and everything is the entire school, correct?
Well, they were saying I wanted it to be written that way in the strategic plan, that we want to have these individual initiatives to diversify these different departments, especially when it comes to Title IX and our academic advisors and our counselors. They work so closely with our students, and when you're dealing with Black students or Hispanic students, they've already told us that they don't get the same results as white students when it comes to being helped. And so my thing was to have individual initiatives for those specific departments, and they told me to omit that, to basically take that out. We'll just throw them in with the rest of, we'll just say that this is a general initiative for us to diversify our faculty and staff as a whole. And I was like, but you need the individuality of these departments. We need those. So I was told to take it out, but I'm personally going to stay on them about, okay, when are we going to start looking at the hiring of, other ethnically diverse counselors? When are we going to start looking at hiring ethnically diverse academic advisors? So I'm going to personally do that because they told me to take out the individual parts.
So it sounds like they're just howling at the moon, so to speak.
That's basically it.
So I'm familiar with Arkansas Tech. In fact, I have a godniece that's at Arkansas Tech, and I begged her dad not to send her up there, but she went up there chasing some boy, which is never good.
Bless her heart.
It's a lot of stuff to take in. So from your perspective, do you think that diversity offices, or whatever they're calling them in various companies and universities, are they just a waste of time?
If we're going to continue to police them the way we are, yes. I really do think that. But if we can get the institutional support and people who actually care about dismantling some of these practices, then it could be a very promising field in higher education. So as long as we have people who just want to police us and want us to make them look good when it's time for them to look good, then yeah, it's absolutely it doesn't do any good.
It sounds like to me, and it sounds like to me that this is no more than Donald Trump getting Reverend Scott to come up and talk about how great he is. But in essence, his underlying who he is and what he does, it doesn't translate to the actual fact. That's what this sounds like to me.
Yeah, absolutely. The effort is purely pointless. When you talk about what it is that these types of departments and the people in these departments are what we're supposed to be doing. If you're not allowing us to, you know, upset the status quo, then why are we doing it? Because that's basically what these departments are supposed to be for. And they know that. They just don't want to, they don't want to go past that. And so if you're not going to allow us to do that, then why even have these positions in these departments? I go home a lot of times and I'm like, why am I here?
Get that check, baby. Get that check.
I mean, yeah, but at the same time,
But you want to be effective in what you
I want to make a mark. Yeah, I want to be able to make an impact and do what that school so desperately needs.
That brings up an interesting question. How does that make you feel individually? I mean, because
It's
to
hard.
me, and it's not an excuse of vernacular, and I'm trying to be mean, but it sounds like they've just created this position to be a token position. So how does that make you feel? Because just based on what I've learned of you,
Yeah.
sister, you ain't no token. You know what I'm
Absolutely
saying?
not. No, it's very frustrating. It's a very, I feel depressed a lot of times. I've had to have a come to Jesus meeting with our vice president of student affairs just to tell her that I'm not your token black employee. And so I told y'all that in my interview. Don't hire me if you want me to come here and look the part, if you want me to come here to be a check off the list, because I know that happens in a lot of places. I've talked to other CDOs and they have these experiences as well. But allow me to come here and actually shake some things up. And they seemed on board at the time. But when I got there, that's all it literally was.
David Banner.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I was reprimanded for bringing David Banner to TED. I was
Wow.
reprimanded because he upset the good white folks. And I took them straight to HR. And I was like, if we need to go higher, we can do that too. But what you're not going to do is negate someone's free speech just because you're not comfortable with it.
Right, because that will be
Yeah, because always telling the students about how you have, we have these free speech zones on campus, and they're always telling about, you can go out there and do whatever you want, just let us know ahead of time so it doesn't, just in case you're doing something that's too crazy that's going to interfere with classes and people, whatever. And they're always encouraging people to go out there and participate and be involved in the community and do this and do that and, have an open mind and all these things and it's a liberal arts school, take advantage of it, blah, blah, blah. But, I was really, I was at the David Banner thing, and I was, really supporting him vocally as he was saying certain things. And it was really crazy because I'm sitting at the front. The president and a bunch of other head people from the school are sitting in those front couple rows in the middle. I'm sitting off in the front to the left. And I can see the president's husband with a red face, at least half of the time that David Banner was up there for, 2 hours, I think?
Yeah.
So at least an
Like
hour,
yeah.
his face was just red the whole time. And I've met the guy before. He seems like a great guy, but for whatever
They all
reason-
seem like
Right.
great guys.
Yeah,
They
well, I'm
do.
just saying personally.
Until they come to the meeting with the sheets.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying personally. I've had conversations with them. We've talked and stuff before, whether it was for a class project or just in passing. And he kind of knows me by face. When he sees me on campus, he'll stop and talk to me. But at that event, I saw a lot of people, and then one of the guys who was there was a so-called journalist or former journalist of the town, and he went on social media and he went through this long rant about how ridiculous and irrelevant and how racist David Banner was, and I had to go in there and correct him and tag all of our mutual friends so he would see it. And you hear things every once in a while through the grapevine. And so when I heard about what they were talking about with her, because I knew if he was mad, they were going to be mad because he's one of those people in the community that everyone knows him. You know what I mean? He goes to the mega church and all that stuff. So I was very upset because David Banner was something that school has been needing for forever. Students really needed that.
The students wanted him back this year. They were asking me, will you bring him back? And I was like, apparently I can't.
So who are you planning to bring this year?
This year we have Brian Terrell Clark. He he's an acclaimed actor on Broadway and also in sitcoms as well. But his story is pretty amazing as well. He's not like an activist like David Banner is, but Brian Terrell Clark. Have y'all seen the miniseries on Netflix When They See Us? Did you see? Okay, so he's in that as well.
Okay.
But he started out doing theater, and he done a lot of big things on Broadway. But he talks about how when he was starting his career in acting, his teachers were telling him, you know, not to. He was basically striving too high because he wanted to go to a very prominent program that was known for their theatrical curriculum, and that was either, I think it was Yale or Harvard, and they told him, nah, you shouldn't even look at those schools. You should just, you know, focus on something, you know, a little bit smaller and something around here.
Typical of white teachers with black males.
Absolutely.
My first grade teacher, Miss McCoy, I remember saying I wanted to be the first black astronaut. You know, the first day of school you go in, I remember this. In fact, I can see it right now. Everybody gets up and says, and by the way, she was teaching at a predominantly black school, old white woman. And everybody's getting up and saying what they want to be. I said, I want to be the first black astronaut. And she said, you don't want to be an astronaut. You'll never make it. So that's common. Now, that didn't deter me from, you know, obviously I'm not an astronaut, but I did a lot of things. I'm into science, I'm into technology, things of that nature. But this is what they do to particularly young black males. And Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu talks about that in The Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys, is that they steal your dreams. In sixth grade, I had a teacher, because I read a lot growing up, very learned for a sixth grader. I had already read J.R.R. Tolkien, the trilogy of The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Kings. By the time I was in the sixth grade, I had read it 3 times. Wow. So I was the only black male in honors English at this school, Southwest. And seventh graders, now that I think about it. Miss Johnson, another old white woman, saw me reading the book, which I would quite often finish my work before everyone else. And I'd pull out my book, and I would buy books with my allowance. And she took the book from me and said, why are you reading that? That's too advanced for you. And I said, no, it isn't. I've read it 3 times already. And she took the book and kept it. I went home and told my mom. My mom called up, raised hell about it. She gave the book back. But the point I'm making is that this is why I tell parents you've got to be involved in what's going on in your school. Because there are some great teachers out there, but there's a lot of bigotry and racism that continues to permeate throughout our public school systems. Because you have little white women who have never known a black person except what they've seen on TV, and then they're coming into inner cities and teaching young black males, and that's increasing them being sent to the office, being suspended, all kinds of negative behavior that manifests itself because those white teachers do not understand the black experience. Jim Kunjufu talks about it. They don't do that now, but when we were growing up, playing the dozen was a rites of passage. I mean, if you couldn't hold your own out in the playground when somebody talk about your mama, then and it wasn't, if he made you mad enough to fight, you lost, you know. But when you go to school and you're on the playground and you playing a dozen, white teachers look at that as a potential fight. So what they end up doing is suspending those 2 young men for something that they've been doing literally all their lives, and they saw their brothers, their uncles, their friends doing it as well. Therein lies the problem here, is the lack of them understanding the culture that goes on within our community, and that's part of the problem. And I say all that to say that I don't think the people at Arkansas Tech, nor the people that are setting up these diversity, because your story is personal, we're hearing it now, but what you're saying is not unlike what I've heard from other CDOs across the country about how this thing of diversity inclusion is nothing more than a joke. you know, than anything else.
It explains a lot with the previous dean of diversity that we had. Because, you know, when I first met him, I didn't really trust him.
I heard about it.
But as I got to know him, he seemed a little more relatable and understanding. But I don't think, like, you could tell his heart wasn't all the way in it. Like, you can tell, like, he was more on the administration side versus the students at some points, at some things, because I went to him several times with complaints about racism on campus, and I let him know about it, and not a word after that. You never hear anything. No updates, no, hey, we got it taken care of, or hey, we looked into it, or hey, you know, thanks for letting me know, and so-and-so is now, you know, dealing with it, you know, nothing. You know,
That's another culture there as well. It's things being, because people are saying things, people are, you know, voicing their concerns, but it doesn't go anywhere. It never gets into the right hands, and I don't.
Striking a nerve with me right now.
I can't say that the right hands are even there for those concerns to get into. So,
you know, that's
It
interesting.
has to be. They just don't take it anywhere. They sweep it under the rug, and that's it.
Before I graduated, I received a complaint about a professor who was saying openly racist things in his classroom, but the girl didn't want to file a complaint.
Oh, I filed complaints at the school.
I encouraged her to several times, but she just.
I had an experience at an HBCU, and I filed complaints several times on several things. One of them being myself being sexually assaulted in one of the branded vans of the school.
man,
Do you think anything happened?
that's
How
ridiculous.
about, wait a minute, they didn't know what Title IX was.
At an HBCU?
Yes, ma'am. When I spoke with the president, 2 weeks went by, heard nothing. Your queen got sexually assaulted, heard nothing. So I called an attorney. She was on the show. We won't say any names, but I love her. And she gave me some words to say in an email. He instantly responded.
Wow.
Nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
Nothing happened after that. For about a year and a half. That was a time where I was losing my triplet sister to cancer. So about a year and a half after that, I was very depressed. I mean, a lot happened. No. And when they see me today, they act like I've done something to them. So the only thing I can do now is, you know, bring up some formal charges or try to fix something out of, out of court or something, negotiate with them. But I went through about a year of complaints. Matter of fact, someone was hired to deal with me. They hired someone to deal with me. And I mean, a year of complaints, not just that, but the biggest thing to me, because to be specific, I was not raped. Okay, it was a sexual assault, very sexual assault. The biggest issue was after the complaint, I was retaliated against by the administration. They didn't fire the guy until another girl he assaulted reported him. And so it was like things. It's like there's one thing after another after another. They're like, file a complaint. You guys don't file complaints. I did.
Right.
Nothing happened.
And it's so messed up. I expect for stuff not to be done when it comes to white folk, but our own, that's...
Well, you got to realize also that some of our own are educated in the white mentality.
That's true.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
So instead of dealing with the issue head on, what do white people do? They lie, they obfuscate, they ignore, hoping it'll go away.
Right.
And it's typical of them. And, you know, it's hard to trust them. I'll be honest. I hate to say it, but I don't trust too many white folks. And the older that I've gotten, you know, I remember as a kid having a white male best friend and taking him, he was with me, and we went somewhere, and this old white guy asked me, "Who's your friend?" And I told him who it was, and he said, "Oh, that's good, that's good." Soon as my white friend was out of earshot, he pulled me aside and said, "Hey, boy, let me tell you something. You don't understand it now, but don't you ever trust him. He's going
Right.
to turn on you.
Right.
And I remember the conversation saying, "Oh, that's my friend. He ain't going to do this." Da, 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 da. And sure enough, years later, he turned on me on the issue.
Wow.
Okay? Now, I'm not saying that's all.
Right.
But see, my premise is this, is that we should not have to hire chief diversity officers if white people's intentions were good.
Exactly.
Nobody want to say that, okay? We shouldn't have to have civil rights legislation if white people's intentions were good.
Right.
Well, if the majority were good.
Okay? Well, but here's the point. I say all of them because, you get all these liberal white folks who run around and want to champion diversity, but they want to sing about it, they want to talk about it, but they don't want any actual change. Because if they did, we wouldn't be sitting here in this situation that we are today.
Right.
Many people who voted for Donald Trump were liberal white folks. You get that, right?
That's right.
50%.
That's right.
Exactly. And white women who were supposed to be liberal white women who were from education. So if we have not, see, the problem I think with black people is that we talk about history, but we don't learn from history. Okay?
Exactly.
And when you go back, see, I can only judge a person by his or her history.
Right.
Okay? And what you've done, if you made a mistake, what have you done since?
Yeah.
In other words, since then,
Right.
to amend that mistake.
Yeah.
White people in this country have not done anything to amend the worst calamity on a people, which was slavery. They've never done anything.
Right.
And until I can see that you're moving forward towards that, I'm sorry. They're going to treat us like we're chief diversity officers. Oh, don't push too hard. Let's not talk about that right now.
Right.
That's the problem in this country. And unfortunately, there are too many black people,
Yeah.
black leaders, who don't want to call them out. And I'll make the point. Look, I respect Ryan Davis. You heard me ask the question. The white friend who invited him to his neighborhood
Right.
didn't even apologize to him for the calamity that could have taken their lives. But that same so-called white friend apologized to the police.
Right.
Did y'all get that?
Absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's
This
why,
is the white friend that came out hollering at the police for him, though.
exactly.
Okay, so
But he apologized to the police. And I specifically asked
defended
Ryan.
I don't know the man, but he at least defended Ryan and Vivian.
He defended Ryan and Vivian at that point, yes. But what I'm saying is he got in the paper, in the media, and said we need to apologize to the police. No.
And I
You
think
need
he
to
did.
You need to apologize to Ryan and Vivian Flowers.
Yeah.
The only reason why he did that is because of his position, though.
But that's my point.
Right.
He didn't bother to apologize to the black victims. They
Right.
were the victims.
Absolutely.
The police weren't the victims. The police were the aggressors. Because whether Ryan wants to admit it or not, they came down that street and they saw two black people. And they saw one of them with dreadlocks.
Right.
Okay? And they immediately, and even Ryan said, we described ourselves to them so they would know who we were. And they still came with guns drawn.
And they chose whose call to take into account.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. So,
Because there were multiple calls.
right. So my point is this, and I say this over and over on the show, is that black people can't get rid of racism. We didn't make it.
No.
We didn't create it. If we want to get rid of racism, then the onus must be on white people.
right.
Even our so-called white friends who want to invite us to dinner and take pictures with us.
Right.
We need to start asking having those conversations with them and saying, hey, look, what have you done for civil rights lately? You see, because if this is going, look, the reason it hadn't changed is because they're still breeding white racists.
Yeah.
See Charlottesville. You see,
Absolutely.
those were young men, 18, 19, 20 years old, walking around talking about we will not be replaced.
Right.
Huh? What are you talking about?
Yeah. We are consistently perpetuating the oppression that was created by them, and we are doing it. Not us. They are doing it because they don't want it to change. Like it is a thing that we are perpetuating. We're doing it in different forms now, but we're still doing it. And it's like you said, racism is not our issue. We didn't create it. And there would be no need for a diversity officer or these legislative policies if people just did right by other people.
If they did right by black folks.
Absolutely. Inequities wouldn't exist if you just did right by black folks.
That's true, yeah.
Absolutely.
And black people need to do black by black folks too.
Exactly.
You're absolutely correct.
Exactly.
Gail,
we gonna get into that next hour. Hang on. Hang on. Don't just hang on. We're gonna get into that.
I'm gonna go
which
to
one?
church on that.
Of Gail.
Oh yeah, I got that. We're gonna get into that here in just a
Trying to
moment.
explain.
Well, y'all hang on. We got 6 minutes left in this hour. This whole hour is for Dr. Quinn, okay? I don't know why I want to call you Dr. Quinn, medicine woman, for some reason.
I so appreciate the estrogen in the room.
I thought you
I
liked
want to
that.
say thank you.
I thought you liked that.
Absolutely.
You know.
I mean, I grew up watching that show, and so I did think of that when I made my IG account. I was like, I'm gonna be Dr. Quinn.
I love that show.
I did too. I did too.
I didn't.
You didn't.
I didn't watch one episode.
I remember watching some of it.
So how you say you don't?
Because it was on back then. It was only 3 channels, baby. Come on now. You know, you were forced to watch it or go watch PBS. You know? Okay. And I watched a lot of PBS growing up. Believe it or not. So.
That makes sense. Well, let me say this. When I was reprimanded, let me get back to Brian Terrell Clark. So his story is basically about proving people wrong because he got accepted into both Harvard and Yale. And he was able to, share that with the people who were telling him, don't aim so high. But going back to last year's speaker, when I was reprimanded, what I told them is the only reason I'm sitting in this room is because this man has ruffled y'all feathers. But do you understand that black people and minoritized people live this every single damn day?
On campus.
Everywhere.
Well, yeah, maybe for them, yeah.
We don't have an option or a set time to be uncomfortable. This is our life. Yeah. And what have y'all done about that? This is our life every day. So for y'all to be trying to reprimand me because you were uncomfortable for one night because a man was speaking the truth that you didn't want to hear.
Go ahead.
Keisha, we're trying to help her, okay? Okay, I know. But she's a guest.
But I agree with her.
Oh Lord, here we go.
But yeah, when you disrupt their comfortability, or when you start to challenge their privilege, then you're automatically put on a chopping block. And so I had to voice that. I'm trying not to cuss, but this is our experience all the time. And so you all are in an outrage because you got to feel it one day.
Yeah. So essentially you're just kind of being hung or lynched or whipped. It's the same thing. It's just
in a different form.
Rhetorically lynched.
What you need is me coming through there like, Django, hey y'all, watch this.
Yeah.
I saw that clip the other day. I laughed my butt off.
One of my favorite parts of the whole movie right there.
I laughed my butt off.
Y'all want to see some?
I think I need to watch a little Django this weekend. All right.
I need to watch it too.
Black History Month.
All right. We got to take the top of the hour break. When we come back, we'll get into some other stuff. Dr. Quinn, you're gonna hang around with us for the next hour.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Glad to have you. By the way, if you're here, we'll talk to Dr. Tootie Quinn. She is a Chief Diversity Officer at Arkansas Tech University. I won't say what we used to call them when we played them, but that's another story. It ain't pretty, but we'll talk to him and talk more with her. Cliff is here. Keisha is here. As soon as we come back, I need to do this as well. We don't talk enough about who Keisha is, so we're gonna let her drop a little knowledge when we come back. And then we're going to get into all this stuff about Gail. We're going to get into all this stuff about Rush Limbaugh. Is he dead yet?
I mean, I posted on Facebook.
It's been
and I
5
was
years.
waiting
You
for it.
gotta
Well,
check.
I'm hoping that he's gonna go real soon.
You saw my post.
Look, I ain't biting my tongue. Forget y'all.
He didn't buy his. Hey, we on the radio.
He
That's my point.
Rush Limbaugh.
Okay. So we'll talk about all of that. Of course, we'll talk about the pathological liar of the United States
I
as
hope he
well.
hits a deer in the atmosphere.
I just want him to fall down the stairs on Air Force One. Just start at the top and tumble down.
No, I want it to be slow. And
That's what I'm saying. Tumbling down them stairs. Hey, them iron stairs, them things gonna hurt. They gonna leave marks.
I have something
Anyway.
very specific in mind.
All right, we gotta go. We'll be back in just a moment.
I'm talking about a car accident with a deer and the antlers go through and the paramedics can't get to him because he's so fat.
Y'all saw him
The
celebrating
law
his
offices of James F. Swindoll provides our clients.
Yeah, but you know, well, OJ was acquitted too.
Cannot offer
don't change anything.
Exactly.
Right.
OJ was acquitted too. Just be aware of that.
D.O. Hughley posted a picture of
millions for
Casey Anthony.
Exactly. Acquittal don't mean you innocent.
And that's what I was like, we all knew he was gonna be acquitted.
Exactly.
That's not.
anytime for a free attorney consultation. Call 1-800.
Or there may be some water in the refrigerator.
If you have water.
Yeah, there may be some fresh water in the
There's some
refrigerator.
water.
Just go right back by that petition.
At Arkansas-.
You know, it's good that you're here today. When I was getting in the car,
law offices are centrally
it came to
located
me that
at
I'm gonna say
212
this because I need to
Center
be a
Street
little
in
bit olive
Little
with it.
That's the law offices
I didn't
of
think it would be a
James
late
F.
here, but I was gonna
Swindoll,
complain
personal
about
injury and
women
products
being
liability attorney
marginalized.
serving
And I was
Arkansas
gonna
since
shout out to all the
1977.
female entrepreneurs or
Get your
ladypreneurs.
funeral home welcome.
And I think I read a statistic where
to connect with a family-owned and
women,
operated service
professional
provider
women,
in Clark
especially
County
minority,
since
are marginalized
1966.
at least
As Mitchell
once
Funeral
a
Home,
week.
they understand.
And we
It's a
just,
celebration of a
you
life
know,
of
it's
legacy.
nothing.
So
We're
the
kinda
entire
taught,
staff takes great pride
just
in
deal with
the
girl.
caring, personal,
Keep
and
your
professional
crown on.
services they provide.
It's
No.
no different from us dealing with these white people that
No.
Life insurance.
Angela
Rotary
Davis said,
Monument Sales and
I am
Chester
no
Funeral
longer
Service
accepting the
Bill.
things I
That's
can't
your
change, but I'm changing the things I can
Mitchell
accept.
Funeral Home
And that's
appreciates
my
the trust
mantra.
and
Because
confidence
just like you
and
said,
will
we've
continue
been
to
taught to
enhance
just
your
take,
service.
no,
Yes.
fuck that, I'm not.
I'm serious. We marginalized by our own people. Sometimes family, sometimes friends, sometimes just because it's a man, sometimes just because they're older, sometimes because they're younger,
Mitchell Funeral
sometimes
Services.
because you lighter or darker.
When needed. Call us
I'm sick of it.
What?
I'm sick of it.
It's just grape juice? Okay.
Grape juice.
2691. It's quality
Get some-
and
It ain't grown, is it?
At Mitchell
It ain't
Funeral.
grown juice. Grape juice, man.
Oh well, I thought maybe they had. I knew they had an event. I thought they had left some of that water in there. I think they have water in the vending machine too.
Our experiences are written and at some point somebody has to say something.
But see, this is the thing, especially, I have after the depression, I have a few people in my life that I talk
in
to,
this generation.
but I feel
Be careful
self-conscious.
when you start saying,
And he didn't make me feel like that, but I feel self-conscious.
he wasn't as good
It's
as
like,
man.
I'm taught that
Yeah.
you're supposed to
You make
complain.
it sound like that old man that
Complain.
goes down the street
And then
every
people
time
treat you a
walk
certain
up
way,
the
even
yard,
if you're addressing valid issues, they treat you like that.
They sure will.
They not tired of seeing me coming. Are you serious?
Yeah, but that's the
And
thing.
guess what? This was a campus police officer with a gun on his hip in the van. And the girl,
answer to your aggravation.
I'm trying to get the right attorney.
Network.
Get the right attorney. I'm not trying to punish them,
The
but
views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are
We
not
can
the
say
views
some
and opinions of the station,
and be
its
viewed as the
management,
angry
or
black
its
woman,
advertisers.
and a
Now,
white
let's
woman
get
can say
ready
the
to
exact
focus
same
on
thing,
our
and
issues,
she's just
our
viewed as
solutions,
being
using
assertive.
our voices
Yeah,
on Black
that's it.
Focus Radio.
she's an activist.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Welcome to
Well, I wear the angry black man crown with
Oh,
pride.
I know
That's right.
We focus on our
You just call me angry black man? Oh, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm living my best life.
surrounding areas and the nation.
Yeah.
Get ready.
Yeah, I see angry about it.
Now, phone lines open.
Also, I've been trying to start a conversation about
So here's your host.
the retention of our black students at Tech. Thank you.
All right, welcome back to the second hour of the show. We've got Dr. Quinn in with us today, having a great conversation about diversity and whether or not it exists, whether it's just a checkbox. And I think all of us have known for quite some time that it's nothing more than just a checkbox. And if white people really wanted to get rid of racism, it would have been gone a long time ago. And I've been saying that for years, and I've said it for years on this show as well. And some people bristle at that fact, but it is a fact. I don't. That's all I deal with is facts, folks. So we've got a lot of stuff to talk about, but I do. Keisha comes on every week with us, and she brings a pretty smiling face with us every week.
And eyebrows.
And I love them eyebrows.
They are on point.
See? Yeah.
Okay. I might need to get
Okay,
set up an appointment.
Well, y'all take that stuff.
Don't do it like that.
Eyebrows are not like bars.
That's
I'm
okay.
just looking at Dave like, yeah.
You'll be all right.
But I wanna just quickly talk to Keisha and let her divulge some of the things that she does, because I firmly believe that what Keisha is doing will benefit the black community if we take heed, and that is home ownership. If we want to rebuild our community, then we've got to stop being renters. It's probably your phone too close to one of these. There you go. We've got to stop being renters, and we've got to start being homeowners. Okay? That is so important. And I don't think many of you all understand that. So, Keisha, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Okay. Well, my name is Keisha Cobb. I am founder and director of the Sustainability Project. That's a nonprofit. Our community development organization is called Sustainable Home. And so what we do is we help low to moderate income and beyond persons become homeowners, either traditionally or non-traditionally. That means either with a bank or without a bank. So in other words, whatever we can do to help them become a homeowner is what we'll accomplish for them. We do build homes. We build sustainably sized homes so that people can enter into home ownership the smart way. In other words, even if you're not low to moderate income, say you and your wife make $35,000-$40,000 a year each. If you want to build a house, I would advise, based on my experience, because I'm a homeowner free and clear. I was a homeowner free and clear at 40. I mean, on my home, I have no mortgage. I would advise that couple, instead of entering what we've been taught to do, a $200,000 or $250,000 mortgage, build you a home, okay, new, or you could rehab one, but build you a home in the square footage that you need and pay it off as early as possible so that you can be financially free. Become industrious, get into other means of income, maybe by investing with us, because we do flip some of our homeowners into investors because we're building more homes and they can pay their home off early. Some news for Sustainable Home is that I attended the home ownership conference the other day. It was amazing. Met some people from Washington, D.C., Texas, and some other lenders that are going to be working with us. And I might be getting invited to D.C. to do some consulting with affordable housing. Because to be honest, what we're doing, we're doing a lot of meeting and talking and stuff and putting a lot of money out, but it's not working. I didn't make that up. Affordable housing is nowhere right now. And you have the trillions of dollars over the last, I'll say 50 years, that has been invested in affordable housing. This isn't just single family, this is rental homes as well. Every state. It's just the federal government is funding out all this money. I'm like, look, you can give me 10% of that, and I can make a lot of stuff happen. So, I told Mr. Anthony Hutchinson, he is director of, I'll give his title, but he's from Washington, D.C. He was the keynote speaker. Told him about the program really quickly, and he was like, yeah, get with me. I like that program. We may need you in Washington. So I'm going to represent Arkansas.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
We're not.
I know, that's why I said it.
It's the opera.
Oh, yeah, she put them eyes on you. Man. You're like, what you want? What you want?
That's what we do. We're at sustainablehome.info. And we'll be having
phone
some
number?
classes and stuff
You got a phone
locally. I'm gonna get that because I don't want to get my cell number out, especially since we
Nobody
talked
wants
about
your
the
little cell
eyebrows.
number.
I don't feel like
Yeah,
if I
Dave,
really
you gonna get
it's
her
the
all.
eyebrows. You know what I'm saying?
Whatever you do, don't look at me with them eyebrows.
I will get that contact information for you guys before the show is over.
Okay, fantastic. Keisha does a great job, and she has. I must admit, I was introduced to her by David Ashley. If you don't listen to Real Talk, Real Money Saturday mornings from 10 to 11, David Ashley. And oh, by the way, we are having some Lupus of Arkansas concerts, and the Lupus of Arkansas talent show will be coming up here in a few weeks, which myself and Miss Keenan will be the MC, so we're excited about that. We've got to do something about lupus. Lupus is one of the diseases, autoimmune diseases, that many people simply ignore. They are misdiagnosed. There are a lot of women, and if you get to meet some of these beautiful women like Tamika and some of the others, and you hear their stories of how they went to doctors and they went through all kinds of different testing and different meds before they finally determined that they had lupus. So we've got to do a better job in determining who has lupus and how we can come up with a cure. And if you ever get a chance to meet Tamika Keener, you'll understand. She's just won my heart. And you can follow her story online on Facebook. And it's a sad but happy story, because a lot of it is Tamika is having treatment, and she chronicles it on Facebook so you can understand what she goes through. But then when you meet Tamika, you would not know that someone as beautiful as Tamika, and I'm just not talking about on the outside, I'm talking about on the inside, is suffering through so much pain. We have to do a better job in that. But okay, so a lot of other stuff to talk about. Of course,
Gail.
I know y'all want to talk about Gail. And
I haven't seen it.
Oprah released a statement this morning that Gail isn't doing well, and she's been receiving death threats. Now let me encapsulate quickly those of you all who don't know what's going on.
Do you have a clip of the interview?
No, I don't even want to play the interview. It's.
I haven't heard it.
Let's see. I wanted to.
I'm not gonna lie.
By the way, shout out to Jackie Wilson, who is also a lupus survivor as well, who is listening to the show. Let's see. More good, a good high school buddy of mine is asking. By the way, LaTanya Grimes says she liked Dr. Quinn.
Thank you, Latanya.
And More good asks, he must have missed part of the story. Did they search any of the people who shot the weapon? No, they did not. And you're talking about the issue with Ryan Davis. The police did very little to secure that weapon. And here's the other thing, that it wasn't just Ryan Davis and Representative Flowers who reported a gunshot. There were people in the neighborhood who heard a gunshot and also called the police. So there was no doubt there was a gunshot. But the police, again, didn't seem that interested in figuring out who fired the weapon. So, again, that's why I was a little perturbed at Ryan Davis, because he ought to, and look, I understand what he's doing. He's running for office. He's not trying to make any waves or things of that nature. But, I think as it relates to bigotry and racism, we are too busy trying to find reason why something happened as opposed to simply calling it like it is. And what happened against Ryan Davis and Vivian Flowers was pure, unadulterated racism.
Oh yeah.
There's no way else you can point to that, okay? Now just imagine, had that been white folks in a black neighborhood, would the same thing have happened?
No.
I think you all know the
Someone
answer
would've
to
gotten
that.
shot by the police.
Exactly. And that's what perturbed me, is had it not been for the white savior who ran out the door and said, "Those are my friends, you're pointing a gun at a state representative," they could have been dead.
These were massive.
You see what I'm saying?
And then he
That's
turned
the
around and pointed the guns at him.
Exactly. And then the same person who came out to save them in the paper apologized to the police. And I specifically asked Ryan Davis, did he apologize to you? And y'all were here. He didn't. So you don't apologize to your friend, but you apologize to the police. So that's where that is. So, okay. as far as those of you all know by now that Gail, Oprah's best bud, is getting dragged through the mud. Now, I will tell you, rightfully so. And let me be clear with you. I have not been an Oprah Winfrey fan for decades. I think, well, I wasn't a fan in that either. I think the last time I was and this was actually the last show she did on this, was Forsyth County. Y'all remember that show where she went to Forsyth County, Georgia? Forsyth County, Georgia is a sundown town. Okay,
Don't get caught there.
and at the time that Oprah went to Forsyth County, this was back in the mid '80s. This is when Oprah was looking to expose bigotry, racism, and injustice. But after the Forsyth County show, word is, at least the research that I found out years later, is that executives went to her and said, "Hey, we want you as a host, but you need to leave the controversial stuff alone." So after the Forsyth County show, Oprah never did any other shows like that again. All right? But she seemed to turn her ire against black men. Now, I'm not the only black person that says this. Black women say that as well. And it seemed that she would never have a positive black man on the show for a long time. She would have men on there who had abused their wives or who had, did something egregious to white women or black women. And people began to point that out. I think where she really tore her draws with me, and that's an old country saying if y'all ain't from the country.
No, all that.
Okay, so where she really tore her draws with me was when she went to, was it Angola, where she went and built the school for the African girls, and someone asked her, well, there are black girls in America who could utilize a school like that. Why won't you build a school like that in America? And her comments were, black girls in America wouldn't appreciate it.
She also said some more that they're not doing as bad as the girls over there. It's a different kind of poverty in America than it is in Africa.
Really? So let me ask you something. If I don't have food in Africa and I don't have food in Little Rock, what's the difference?
When they're making dirt patties to eat. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But I can show, there are neighborhoods right here in Little Rock where kids are making dirt patties to eat. My point being is, for her to say that, I was done with her at that point. I had already gotten to that point. And then, of course, along comes Gail, and, they're best buds. And, look, if you want to like Oprah, this is not me to try to convince you not to like Oprah. I'm telling you why I don't like her. And typically, black people people in general will expose themselves to who they really are. So I lived in Nashville for 15 years, got to know Mr. Winfrey, Oprah's father. And I got to see up close when Mr. Winfrey died, how Oprah, by the way, I did radio at WVOL, which was the radio station in Nashville where Oprah started. Oprah has not spent one penny on that radio station, to support that radio station, all right? But also when Mr. Winfrey passed, his new wife, Oprah and her didn't get along. Oprah didn't need the house. She literally put this old woman out of this house. Literally put her out of the house. So that told me about her character, which I already was pretty familiar with. But this latest incident, and I can't deny what Oprah and Gail have been doing. Now look, I am not condoning what Bill Cosby allegedly did, R. Kelly allegedly did. Look, I'll tell you right now, I don't listen to R. Kelly's music because of what he did with, what's the girl's name? Aaliyah. Back then, she was underage. That was prior, when he came out with In Space Jam, I Believe I Can Fly. Yeah. Love that song. Stop playing it. Because this guy was clearly pursuing young girls underage. All right. But here's my point. if you're going to do a documentary on those people, R. Kelly, Michael Jackson, which your documentary was false, that's why they had to pull it, the information that was being put in there, and all the other black guys that you're going after, Oprah and Gail, Simmons, Russell Simmons, you got pictures with the chief sexual harasser in office right now.
Absolutely.
You got pictures with Harvey Weinstein. A lot of them. And not one point over the last 3 to 4 years have you fixed your mouth to do any documentaries on those guys. And this is what I think they don't understand. They're not getting this, okay? You are allowing the white media to use you to attack black men. You know, if you're going to have that forum, then certainly you've got to use that forum equally. But you're not. And we know the white media has never used that forum. I tell people all the time that part of the attitudes that white people have about black people is because of the media.
That's right.
Okay? And the media is a big word. That means movie. That means television. That means news. That means sports.
All kind of entertainment.
All kinds of entertainment.
That's right.
So when you, Gail, try out like you're this savior of women, yet you're not telling the full story, your ass needs to be dragged. And they are dragging her left and right, and they have been exposed. So those are my thoughts. I'm interested in hearing y'all's, but I've had enough. Look, at the end of the day, here's what I know. And I'm not trying to get anybody to cover up anything bad. But I know white women will get dogged by white men, but when it comes to going after black people, those white women gonna be with them white men. That's just how it is, okay?
Yeah.
We have to start understanding what is important. How do we use our positions that we have to make it better for our people? And with the power that Oprah has, the money that she has, she could do a lot of good in the black community. But she seems to, for whatever reasons, and of course the history is that she was sexually abused. She seemed by a black man. She seems to have this hatred for black men.
That's going to be my point. The
You know,
psychological aspect.
Right, but here's the thing. A white abuser is no better than a black abuser. So if you're going to go after anyone, you have to go after them all. That's all I'm saying. You know, and I understand the psychological aspect of
It
it.
is.
You know, but at the end of the day, if I tell you I am against
Eating crackers.
I'm going to be against you eating Ritz crackers, oyster crackers, saltines, Ritz bits,
Yeah.
club crackers, any crackers.
Chicken
chickens.
store 'cause they're good.
Yeah, they got that little buttery flavor.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Black crackers.
But y'all understand what I'm saying?
White crackers.
You can't be selective in who you go after. And I think the outrage that Oprah is getting, and I'm going to tell you, Snoop Dogg dragged her
But
good.
he asked for permission first. Everybody needs to give him credit for that. He did.
Have y'all heard Snoop Dogg? You can't play it on
Nah,
that.
he
The
was
only,
trying
the
to
only
hold
thing I
back.
saw was
But wait a minute, can we not talk about that pretty scarf he had on? It was a nice.
Oh,
I
man.
only seen the I saw the screenshot of the video.
It was a nice scarf. It's real, just, it was probably Versace or something. It was a nice scarf.
I feel like I'm gonna be proud though after I see it.
Ooh,
You
he
will.
talked to her like he was her
And I'm not a
mama.
Snoop Dogg fan,
Yeah.
but he went in on
He
her.
talked to her
Okay.
like he was her mama, but he was keeping it real.
right.
But before
Right.
he went
Well within
in,
his
he
rights.
did say, and you know who he's asking, black
Black.
Twitter
Yeah.
or black
Black
social
people.
media.
Yeah.
That's what he said. Y'all can I do it?
Yeah.
And he just felt it.
Yeah, because he's a hardcore
And he
Lakers
went
fan.
in.
He's
Well,
He called her a
Snoop is-
dog.
He is.
Yeah, but see, the problem is this. Where I have the problem, look, Kobe Bryant, for whatever reasons, I won't say he got caught up. He put himself in that situation. Okay? That happened in 2003. Okay? And again, here's what the media does.
But did he actually?
No matter how you change your life, if you are a black man, what small indiscretion, and I'm not saying that was small, but any indiscretion that you may have had in your past, they lead with that.
That's right.
They don't lead with Kobe Bryant granted 200 kids make-a-wish. You know that, right? If y'all don't know what make-a-wish is, these are for terminally ill children. And they make a wish. They might say, hey, I want to go to a NBA basketball game, or I want to go to Disney World. Kobe Bryant granted over 200 of those wishes. Okay? And for Gail to sit up in that interview
with her crooked mouth
and to try to get Kobe Bryant's friend to cast dispersions on him about something that happened over 15 years ago, and not talk about the things that Kobe has done since. Sure, that was a hit piece. Yeah. And then you're going to come back and say that, oh, see, here's the thing. I'm in the media. I've been in the media for 35 years. Right. Now, unless things have changed, when you go out and do a piece like that, you know what they do? You sit in a cutting room with the editor. Okay. We're
about to get to that. Go ahead.
You sit in the cutting room with the editor. Okay. And when you are going through that piece with that editor. Oh yeah. And that editor might say, well, I want to cut this. You say, because it's your piece, you say, no, that takes away from the context of what I was talking about. So you can't cut that. Well, we got to get it down to 3 minutes. That's fine, but we're going to have to find something else to cut. Okay?
She said she selected everything that was
exactly. So don't sit up there and then turn around and lie on CBS and say, "Oh well, I'm upset with my company for putting that in there and taking it out of context." Now, those of you who don't know the media, y'all might fall for that okie doke. But I knew she was lying because I've been in this business.
She said they posted those clips. And she didn't know it. That's what
she's a damn lie.
And she said that they edited it, took out stuff that made it look out of context. Yeah. I was like, as soon as I saw the video, I was like, what are they talking about?
That's what she said.
As much money as you having such a big name in the media,
you can walk right in that room and
tell
them what the hell it's gonna be and what it's not.
Exactly. And then after it's finished being edited, guess what you do? You preview it.
That's right. You watch it before it goes on anyway.
You see what I'm saying?
I believe it was a lawsuit.
So the point is this, and I think it's so. Look, Kobe isn't even in the ground yet.
No.
And you want to go in on him. What about his wife? What about his 3 other daughters that are still grieving him? Do you think that they want to hear that their dad was an alleged rapist? When we don't know the real facts today. We never knew the real facts.
And then people don't, there are so many people who do know how those kind of situations play out. Absolutely. You have the manager most of the time, and you have the crew around him or them with all of those celebrities, all of the athletes. Specifically, R. Kelly, I remember when he came to town, the Excelsior Hotel at the time, the manager picked girls from the concert, you, and had them lined up in a long line at the room. They announced it, we're kicking it at the Excelsior. Had them all lined up. They didn't care about age. They were not checking IDs. They looked at how you were dressed or whatever you had on. And they do this all the time.
Yes, they do.
And so I think it probably got out of hand with this girl. Okay? It probably did. Something got out of hand. Maybe with someone else. It don't matter. But they didn't tell the whole story.
Oh, I don't think the whole story.
They all just probably kind of let him take the fall. When you have all these people around them who are setting this stuff up everywhere they go, the strip clubs. Right. You know what I'm saying? So that's what they do, and they never talk about it. So,
well, what we do know is that whoever the young lady was, when they had the trial. That person refused to testify. That's what I read.
That's correct.
She refused to testify.
When Lisa, her name Lisa, his friend, brought that up.
Lisa Leslie.
Gail mentioned that, and Lisa said that, he was acquitted, and she said only because.
Exactly.
So that's when I got pissed, because at first I was like, it's okay for her to ask these questions, but it was like she was kind of picking So she was
Right.
like, no, only because she couldn't prove. I think she went and got examined, and it showed that she had some DNA, other men's DNA,
3 different ones.
inside her vagina.
Right.
Which leads me to believe half of you wasn't raped.
And it was set, y'all.
It was it was consensual.
The manager probably set all of that
didn't
up.
get what you wanted out of the deal,
And look, if it's
and you
got
thought you were
4
going to ruin
swimmers,
him.
4 people got swimmers in you. It got out of hand. I'm sure she got
Especially
her
if you're only
money.
chasing
Oh yeah, she got
But
paid.
she
Yeah,
also
she got
had a
paid.
case. So that's when she went to an attorney, and he was like, "We can do this and then." And I guarantee she got some money out of all
Well,
of
you
that.
have to remember. I remember this so well. I'm gonna be honest. I've never been a Kobe Bryant fan
Me
because
either.
I'm a Philadelphia 76er fan.
Okay.
But
Well, it wasn't a team. It was just him.
I remember the
Not
case, and if you remember, she was dating someone,
I didn't
and
know
my argument was that I remember some of my friends. I was doing radio at the time, and I don't want to minimize sexual assault by any
Right,
means
right.
of imagination.
And
That's
you
why I'm
know
glad
I'm
you
not.
all are here.
Absolutely not.
But some people believed that when her boyfriend found out that she had slept with a black guy, he raised hell with her to make her try to press charges. Now, I don't know that to be true, but that was some of the things that were coming out at the time. But my point being about Gail and Oprah is that there seems to be this fetish by those 2 women who like going after black men.
Yeah.
And I would not be saying this, but damn, there are pictures all over the internet with you and Harvey Weinstein.
Right.
Man, he raped hundreds of women,
And who is
black and white.
Who is the other guy now? This weird looking guy that's sitting with Oprah, and he was found guilty of
I forgot his
all the
name.
rapes and trafficking.
Exactly.
But isn't it weird,
Too much.
y'all, that they are refusing to that Gail and Oprah and
Oprah and Kale.
Gail
Yeah.
and Oprah. Gail and Oprah good together with cornbread. But anyway, isn't it weird that they're associated with all of these people who have evidence of human trafficking?
Absolutely.
And to be specific, human trafficking is pretty much paying for sex, you guys.
Right.
Okay, it used to
Well,
be
it's pimping. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah.
what it
Okay.
And transporting.
So Oprah happens to have this school in Africa,
Woo, see, I ain't, girl, I ain't thought about that. Gone.
and like I just said, they always set up all of the celebrities. I have a friend that used to do that professionally. Any celebrity that came in town, any of the boxers that was in town, I know my friend is the one that set up all the girls
Find the
back in the
girls
day.
for
It wasn't trafficking. All the girls for dances, even if there was no strip club. I know how that stuff is set up. For the white guys, it doesn't matter. They'd be like, hey, they can ask their friend, Oprah and Kale, know exactly who to call. Hey, so and so needs some entertainment. They're not removed from that.
Right.
Right.
Something is going on to where they would just close their mouths. And Oprah's dad, she didn't have a good relationship with him either.
No.
I did a piece on him. He was a barber.
Right.
And when I published my Beauty and Barber magazine in 2005, I did some research on him, interviewed some people that knew their family. She just hasn't had a good experience with black men, but neither have I. And I'm going to keep going.
Absolutely.
Well, neither have
can't
I.
say
And I'm
all
gonna keep
of
going.
them. Right,
Yeah,
I
you
can't say
can't.
all of them are terrible.
I don't like Cliff, but I still let him come on the show.
Oh,
Isn't that
yeah.
so clear?
It's because I'm brown.
Yeah, it's cause you high yellow.
He light brown.
But you make Keisha, you make a good
To
point.
Look
villainize
at that.
and demonize this man, like you said, who had not even been buried yet, that we don't even have all the facts, and you are here point blank with the evidence of these other accusers who, I mean, they actually did what they were accused of, and we have the hard evidence, and not one time have you criticize them the way they done COVID. And it's just
Reason
so,
for that, I think.
and I'm like, man, it's
I
all
think they had something
your
to do with
own
it.
people.
Well, look at what's the guy's name that her co-host that was on CBS for a long time? Was it Charlie? What was his name?
Gail's co-host.
Yeah, that was on CBS. He was on CBS. Now this guy was accused,
With
and
the white hair.
yeah, Charles something. I forgot. I don't know. I can see his face. I can't even think of his name. Listeners, if you're out there, if you know who I'm talking about, hit us up.
Trying to Google.
But the bottom line is this: is that she was his co-host, and when she's got a picture with Matt Lauer, y'all know about Matt Lauer, right?
Yeah.
Matt Lauer he had a button under his desk, so when women would walk in his office, he would hit the button and lock them in. And one intern that he allegedly raped, she passed out. And he had his assistant to come and help carry her out of his office.
I believe it.
Now, Gail and Oprah has pictures with Matt Lauer. This other guy who was a co-host on CBS Morning. Gail, when he was accused, you know what Gail said? You know, there are two sides to every story.
Wow.
That's what Gail said. You see what I'm saying?
The older
But you
guy?
harp on this
Yeah, what
man.
was Charlie? God, I can't think of his name for
Is
some
that
reason.
him?
Yeah, that's him. I
Okay.
can't think of his
Okay,
name.
his name.
But
Oh, okay.
but the point I'm trying to make, and this is why I think this dragging is deserved, is because at some point we as black men and black women, number one, we have to stand together.
Right.
You know, yeah, it's some tough stuff that go on in our communities. We can excise that and still stand together. But number two, more importantly, I think black people are tired of okey-doke Negroes.
Yeah.
And I don't care how much money you have, you can still be an okey-doke Negro. And it's clear from my perspective is that that's what both Oprah and Gail are, and that's okey-doke Negroes. Because, again, I would love for someone to sit them both down and ask the question. But Gail, but Oprah, why haven't you done something on Weinstein and Matt Lauer and all these other white men
Right.
who have been excused? Why are you just focusing on black men? I'd love to see that answer.
Absolutely. And
I'd love to see that
black
answer.
Look, if she heard all of this backlash, she's heard that backlash too.
Yes.
It was going on before Kobe died.
Yes.
So they're just refusing to address it.
Apparently. And now you're harping on a black man who is no longer here to defend
To defend himself.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, well, it doesn't matter, but she claims she talked about all the good stuff too. Still, from a woman who has been victimized, even as a child, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I am not the person to preach forgiveness all the time. Okay.
Absolutely. I get that.
Yeah, not what people think is forgiveness, but I had to be around the man that sexually assaulted me when I was a child.
Right.
And I learned how to get past it. He did different things in his life. You know, he changed, etc. And I know people can change. I always held him accountable.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I also considered the fact that I know he didn't go on to do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
The buck stopped with me because I threatened to tell everybody, if you ever do anything again and I'm watching you. But that wasn't until I was an adult. Still, once he died and after that, I didn't go around telling everyone.
Yeah.
It's like that's his legacy. And there are people that know. There are people that know the truth about Kobe. There are. But on a public stage, we don't need you with your crooked mouth. It's to the left, Gail. Kale.
Well, that's how she talks like
She got
this,
you.
because she's proper.
We don't need her or Oprah or anyone else. Unless that girl comes out
Right.
and talks about her experience, shut up.
Then you need to be quiet. And
Right.
who is the Disney heiress the Disney woman that was saying she looked like Miss Piggy just came out of rehab?
Really? Bless
Yeah.
her heart. Maybe
Disney
that's where
Disney
Miss Piggy
heiress
came from.
comes and says don't glorify him like right after he died.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I
And
remember.
said
Yeah,
that he's a rapist.
she's
still with it.
she's the son of Walt. I mean, the daughter of Walt,
Walt
Disney.
Disney.
Same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. She's a daughter of. Well, look. As far as Disney is
Miss Piggy.
concerned, you, Miss Harris, don't need to be talking. No.
Thank you.
I spent with the demonic things that they have and
Hey,
come on.
Not just demonic, but racist.
Racial.
Their whole history is
You know,
based on racism.
Exactly. So
Disney been
you one of
racist.
those. You
Don't
need to
do
just
it.
go over there in that corner and
Don't
sit down
do
and
it.
shut up. Okay.
Absolutely.
You know, but I certainly But again, I'm one of those people that look, I believe in second chances. Now, I've never been sexually abused, and I can't even sit here and pretend like I understand what it's like for a woman. I wouldn't dare do that. But I know that people screw up, make mistakes, but what did you do after the fact? And I think you made an interesting point, Keisha, is that you told him, the person that abused you, that if you ever,
If I think.
this is what's going to happen, okay? Kobe, for whatever reasons, you can go back and look from after that incident forward. You hear nothing else about Kobe.
He changed. You could tell he grew up.
And Kobe, and I think, and just listening to some of the things that Jerry West said, any kid that has that type of money, I said kid purposely, because Kobe
That's what
first
he was.
arrived in Los Angeles at 17.
He was straight out of high school.
He was straight out of high school. He had, and look, everybody been to Los Angeles? Everybody been to LA? You ain't been to LA yet?
No.
LA is the original Sin City.
Yeah.
Dude, you can get anything you want in LA
I mean, I've
in
been
5
to
minutes.
I've been to San Francisco. It's,
Well, San Francisco is nothing like LA.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell
The
you.
nice
LA
part
is
of
LA.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm saying is that Kobe was this. He had been international. He was this naive 17-year-old kid, and Jerry West described that he had to teach Kobe that you can dribble through 5 people and slam the basketball, but that's not going to help the team win. Those are little things that he had to teach Kobe. So just imagine what you had to teach this young man about life. He had no relationship, not much of a relationship with his parents.
Right.
Jerry West was his main mentor. Even Jerry West, as a white man, couldn't understand the pressures that was on Kobe, a young black millionaire. You see what I'm saying?
yeah. One of the interviews that I saw said that they compared Kobe Bryant before and after that situation, and they said, Kobe before this whole, sexual assault thing, he was very confident, and
Yep.
very, very cocky and very just kind of like had that thing about him. But they said like what they noticed was afterwards it humbled him, and he, to their impression, said that they felt like he took it as a learning lesson.
He learned from it. And it's clear he
And
did.
to kind of bring himself back down to earth and realize that he's, just because he has all this money and he's a superstar in the NBA and all this stuff, and he's a celebrity and around the world, that he still had to kind of tone it down a bit in certain things and be able
How
to
old was he when it
respect.
happened?
God, Kobe couldn't have been no more than 21 or 22.
21.
Yeah, he wasn't that
I
old.
think he was he turned 20 yet?
Yeah, he was a
Yeah,
he was a young guy.
Yeah,
You know.
I remember when it happened. I remember him being drafted. It was a big deal.
Yeah, he was a young
He was
guy.
drafted at a very young age.
Yeah, he was drafted at 17.
He's only a
Okay,
few
so
years older
this
than
happened
me.
about 2 or 3 years after he started playing.
Right.
So
Right.
he would have been. How old was he passed away?
41. It happened in 2003.
Yeah.
I turned.
And while you're thinking that my
20,
son is
21.
23, right? And
He's 3
comparing
years
him at 23, 20 years from now,
Right. And that's the thing. You take a kid, a black kid, out of the hood of Philly, and he instantly becomes a millionaire that quick. Didn't go to college, straight into the NBA, and everything he ever wanted is accessible to him,
including women.
including women.
Everything.
Because
Every-
the coach
everything.
probably said,
Everything.
the
You're
coach
right.
could have
Look,
said,
there's a story I was listening last week where they were in Las Vegas for an All-Star game. They were at a strip club. And Kobe was calling some of his basketball buddies and said, "Hey man, get me in the club." And the guy who told the story said, "Kobe, I can't get you in the club. Everybody know you 18.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?" So he was getting all of that stimuli. Look, I remember when I was 18. Hell, I was a freshman in college. I thought I was the stuff. on that campus. When I rolled up in there with my white shoes and white sanitary socks and shorts, and although I got a beer belly now, I had them pecs and I could bounce them pecs.
Oh,
Man, I was the schnizzle. You know what I'm saying? Now, and I wasn't making any money.
Yeah. But
Imagine Kobe.
Yeah, you give that to a 17-year-old kid.
Yeah, boy.
Man.
He's gonna make some mistakes.
Mistakes. I mean, there are men.
Not
Go
excusing,
back to
you
the
know, what
story
he
I told
did.
you, right?
Yeah.
I am not excusing. I just shared that I'm a victim, but there are men in Gail's community, okay, never been on TV, in her family, never been on TV, in our communities who have purposely sexually assaulted people and raped people.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So to try to expound on that, Gail, I would love for her to do a piece on the victims of the invisible victims.
Right.
You know, that's a good point because I'll be honest, my ex-wife was a victim. And I say today that that's what destroyed in fact, I know that's what destroyed our marriage. And my biggest frustration as I learned more about sexual assault is the dirty little secret, that dirty little secret in the black community.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
In black churches.
Yeah.
Okay?
Family,
That
in
girl,
family.
don't say nothing about that.
That's right.
He's a good man. I even have a friend when I was living in Nashville who the associate preacher from the church that they were attending, he would come over to her house every Tuesday for Bible study. She has 3 daughters. Okay? One of the daughters happened to be at home this Tuesday. She had not made it home yet. And the daughter, because he had been coming over there every Tuesday, she let him in. Mom will be here in a little bit, yada, yada, yada. Make a long story short, he raped her. Okay? This was the associate minister. All right? When the mother went to the church, guess what the church did?
Defended him.
They defended him, and the mother and her daughters ended up having to leave that church
Oh my God.
and go join another church. So you're exactly right. I would love for, and let's be clear, we talk a lot about sexual abuse with women, young girls, but folks, I'm here to tell you, it goes on with young boys.
Absolutely.
And it goes on with grown women to young boys.
Yeah.
Okay?
And and with young boys to young boys too.
Exactly.
Pay attention to that.
Exactly.
Ministers,
So,
Betty Long.
right. So,
wait a minute, the sexual assault I just shared with you on the HBCU campus, he's a pastor.
well, see,
Wow.
but that's my point is that if Gail wants to be honest, or Oprah for that matter, why don't you do an expose on the sexual assault that goes on in the black
Real
community?
stuff with
Let-
facts.
Let's deal with that because that's a real issue.
Yeah.
It got to a point after my divorce, my first question to women that I was potentially going to date,
Right.
have you ever been sexually assaulted?
Yeah.
That's real.
And some of them would get offended by me.
Wow. Yeah.
That ain't none of your business. I said, well, look, sister, I'm not trying to be mean.
Right.
I said, but I just went through a hell of a divorce, and a woman that I loved was sexually assaulted. And I can't go through that anymore. I need to know if you've gotten some
Have you
counseling.
healed?
Have you healed?
Right.
Because if you have not healed, I can't handle that.
That's right.
And that's a
You
clear
see?
indicator. Them not being able to talk about it.
Exactly.
Me being
Exactly.
able to talk
Yep.
about this, it turns people off, but I healed past it. It took me a little while, but I wasn't raped, okay? Let's just research what assault is,
Right.
but I healed past it so I could talk about it, and I'm proud of it, even if it turns people off, because there may be an HBCU queen or another student that's
Or just
being
a woman
assaulted
out there.
Who's been silent?
Who wants to hear your story?
Yeah.
Who needs to hear
It's
your
gonna
story?
help.
and it's swept under the rug. And some states now have adopted some policies, but they would limit you so much on reporting it. And even Arkansas now really caters more to children than women being assaulted, and it's sad.
Well, I just think that there's more to be said about this, but the dragging of okra and kale I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
Me too.
You know, it's one of those things where I'm saying, see, told you.
Sometimes you get a whooping,
Told
right?
you.
Sometimes you get a whooping. You
Yeah.
show out, you get a whooping.
Well, they done got them draws toned, and
Right.
I'm laughing
And
because deservedly so, because I think they could do a lot more in the black community than they're doing, but that's neither here nor there. All right, so let's talk a little bit. We got a few minutes to go in the show. Let's talk a little bit about the Ku Klux Klan member receiving the Medal of Freedom.
What?
You hear about it?
No.
You didn't hear about that?
Say it again.
No.
What you call it?
The Ku Klux Klan member.
I need it.
I saw that photo though.
Y'all see that photo?
Name Ku.
The Grand Dragon where Melania was putting the medal around his neck.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
You didn't see that?
No.
You need to start following me on
That was
Facebook.
like the-
I
it was
do.
like
I
the-
will.
Okay,
Immediately.
I raised multiple hells on
Girl.
Facebook.
He
Okay.
did.
I take no names.
I do the same thing, so I'm definitely gonna
Yeah, you
be
need to, Dr. Quinn, you need to start following me on
I'm
Facebook.
gonna be
I do it,
doing
But
it immediately.
yeah, exactly.
I got
So,
Russellville.
but the point is that I watched a piece with
When did this happen?
the State of the Union. Were you not?
The other
Yeah.
night,
He didn't have a Ku Klux Klan suit on, but
but he's a known.
He's a known
Suspected?
white supremacist.
Do you know who Rush Limbaugh is?
yeah, you see
Rush
that?
Limbaugh?
Yeah.
Would you say he was a known white supremacist?
Based off of- yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
a white supremacist to me is nothing more than a euphemism for the KKK.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. Rush Limbaugh.
Wow.
You didn't know he got a medal, the Medal of Freedom?
From
No.
Now,
what you
The
call
highest
Edwin
award
What's
in the
his
land.
name?
I call him.
Executive
president-
liar.
I call him the pathological liar of the United
Presidential
States.
cross
Right.
of something.
So
cross of-
here's
But
the
he ain't
irony.
leader.
Here's the irony behind that, and I think a lot of black people didn't get this. All right,
during February.
number one, February is Black History
Right,
Month.
come on, yes.
Okay. Number two,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
particular day was the birthday of Rosa Parks. A lot of people don't know that. Okay. And then number three, which was the most offensive of all, was the fact that you introduced the Tuskegee Airman who had went and fought and laid his life on the line for a country at the time who did not even recognize him as a
As a
citizen.
citizen. Or
He
a
looks
Okay.
black. He
Oh,
looks white.
right.
But that's a black man.
So now you're going to give Rush Limbaugh, and look, I've been in this business a long time. I remember when Rush
did
used to,
not know
he
this.
was nowhere near what he is today. I used to listen to Rush Limbaugh every day because I did talk radio, and of course you listen to others to develop your craft. Okay,
Right.
I got to the point where I could no longer listen to him because of his bigotry and racism.
Yeah.
All right. And for the president to do that, that was a direct slap in the face
I think it
of
was
black
intentional.
people.
Yeah.
it was no coincidence, in my
right.
opinion. Okay? Because for
I
you
think
to
it was a
say,
ceremony.
and here's the other thing. A lot of people don't realize that the commercial that he ran during the Super Bowl, did y'all see that?
No.
With the you know,
Reverend black
well,
guy?
it was a black woman, and then there was another one about jobs. Came out last
Yes,
night
I saw that.
that the black woman that's featured in that that was filmed at Toyota, I believe in Ohio, in 2012. She didn't even know that the Republican Party and Donald Trump was going to use that piece. She didn't give them permission to use that, although she signed a release
Toyota.
to Toyota.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She didn't sign a release to the Republican Party and the President of the United States.
Yeah.
Now, I say all that to say this, that if you are a black person, in America, you're free to use your vote any way you want. And, excuse me, and I was watching Roland Martin this morning. It was and I reposted it on my wall, a black Trump supporter trying to defend Trump based on lies. And she looked like a damn fool. Number one, because her eyelashes was like 2 inches long. Okay? Please, sisters, let me just say that. Just a side note. Stop wearing them long ass eyelashes. Okay? Exactly.
Nothing.
That is nothing cute about that at all.
No, it's-
Okay?
PSA.
But here this sister was trying to. Now, I like Roland Martin. I don't like everything he does. But the one thing you got to understand that if you do what I do what he does, you better have your facts together.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's why I tell any Republican, and I'm going to say it again, that if you're a Republican out there and you would like to come on Black Focus, you're welcome. Come on. But you know why you're not going to come on Black Focus? Is because you're full of lies. You don't have any facts. Okay? And Roland Martin had facts and he was wearing her out.
Right.
And he kept saying, let's deal with the facts. And she kept dealing with hyperbole. Hyperbole. Mm-hmm. We have got to do a better job in educating our people on how to look beyond fluff. Right. Because Donald Trump, again, you judge a man by his history. Back when he was sued for housing discrimination, has he changed?
No.
Back when he said that he likes white Jews to count his money and not black people, has he changed?
Absolutely not.
Okay? When he was calling the president of the United States, then Barack Obama, when he was leading the birther movement, has he changed? No. He's gotten worse. So I don't understand how any black person can be supporting Donald Trump. It's incongruent. It's an oxymoron.
It is.
It makes no sense whatsoever. And for you black people out there running around talking about, well, he creating jobs. Well, let me ask you something. If you have one job, look, there is not a state in America that you can work one job and pay your rent.
Period.
Yeah.
You know that? Did y'all know that? There's not a state in America. So all these jobs that you're creating, they are McDonald's and Burger King and service industry jobs where they don't pay benefits, okay, where they work you for 39 and a half hours because they don't want to work you 40 hours because then you're subjected to another tax. How can you sit around and pretend that this man is for black people? Y'all help a black man out because it boggles my mind. And I'll be honest, I've gotten to a point in my life where I'm not that understanding anymore. I done lived 58 years now. I'm not that understanding anymore. I just can't buy some of the BS that is being blown out by some of these black people.
Right.
So can y'all help me out in the last few minutes that we have here? What's going on here?
It's ignorance. It's ignorance. And it's in our nature, it's human nature to pick a side, okay, to colonize. It's in our nature. And I guarantee he has a socioeconomic psychologist, somebody is on his team spinning this. And so when they're saying they're creating jobs, first of all, even if you want to become industrious, you want to be, because I prepare taxes for some of the ladies who are going to buy houses. Mm-hmm. If you want to become a business owner, you're going to get punished because small businesses pay up to 30% on their earnings. Mm-hmm. As an employee, you don't. You pay 10%. Mm-hmm. And then they say that the company takes up some of the slack from, but no, they get tax incentives from the state, from the government. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, that comes from Washington, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay. They can decide, hey, let's just make small business owners Schedule C, what they file. Let's just make business owners pay the same taxes as everybody else. Like, what is the problem? Mm-hmm. So they don't know that. I guarantee they don't know that. These same people that are saying that. 0%. And so, I mean, a job, I could not work a $10 an hour job.
No.
Yeah. I couldn't do it, even with benefits. You have a thing called income depression that is all over this place. You have people who are working full time and they have to go steal. I'm a little Facebook page, North Little Rock Facebook page. They're always posting how someone stole food. I'm like, you guys realize they're stealing food? Right. Theft is at an all-time high nationwide under the Trump administration. Yeah. So to answer that, they're going to.
Oh, and by the way, he's cutting your SNAP benefits.
What? SNAP, Medicaid? Yeah. Well, that is on a state level too. The governors can apply for what's called waivers,
but not for the SNAP. Not for the SNAP. This is national. They are cutting all SNAP benefits.
They can apply if your state is in peril and your job rate is not growing fast as it should. The governor can apply for a waiver, and that means.
You think Asa will apply?
No. He's the one. A couple years ago, he said that our jobs are growing at a great rate.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And so when they have that waiver, it changes the requirements. Mm-hmm. You can get emergency food stamps. You don't have have to have as much income, da 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 da. He said we're doing good. I was
But
like,
isn't it just like them to lull us into a false sense of security? They do it all the time. And I tell black people all the time, you can bet on white people to be calculated to get whatever they want. Just like that commercial we saw during the Super Bowl, and that woman didn't know anything about it and how they were going to use it.
wow.
That's been planned.
Yep.
It's been, white people are going to be calculated as much as they need to be. I need for us to stop being so docile and so unlearned, because we have the opportunity to not be that way, and we're choosing to stay that way. And I think that's why I sometimes ruffle a few feathers with other black folks.
Well, you can ruffle as many feathers as you want on this show.
Well, I appreciate it, but it's,
Because we don't have a problem doing it.
It's
You know,
one
you
of those
let
things
educated black folks are
Well, and they're the worst. They're the worst.
Don't get me
They
started.
They're the
are,
worst.
and that's the thing.
I have
Listen,
a doctorate degree.
right? I don't know nothing. The older I get, that's what I realize. I don't know anything.
She's a doctor, y'all. What she just said means that she is intelligent. She's smart as well as educated.
I don't know anything.
Wow.
The world shows me that every single day.
Well, I tell people all the time is that it gets to a point, when it gets to the point where I can no longer learn, I'd rather be dead.
Yeah.
And that's just me. I'm learning every day. I want you to teach me
A
something.
lifelong
Okay.
learner. Always a student.
That I've always been that way. I will always be that way. And unfortunately for black people, some black people, for whatever reasons, and I think this has been to our detriment, and I say this all the time, look, the number one tool that you can use today to learn is your phone, your computer.
Absolutely.
But you all spend your time worrying about who's screwing who.
Yeah. The knowledge is at your fingertips now. And we still don't take advantage of it.
Exactly.
But then we want to complain about being duped and the white man this and the white man.
And you don't
it's
spend
kinda
your money with black folks.
That's true.
You know, you talking. We don't have that.
Dream.
You don't spend your money with black folks, and then you mad because that white folks won't hire you, and
Right.
you know,
Spend
Master,
money
we
with
sick.
What they tell Master?
Master, we sick.
Weeds is spelled
Weeds is W-E''S.
Exactly. All right, hey, look, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a fun show, a good, great Friday show as always. By the way, you all listened to this show long enough to know you all need to have quotes ready. Cliff, you got your quote ready?
Yeah, of course I do.
Okay, I'm just checking.
I ain't no day on newbie.
Okay, Miss Keisha,
I have mine.
you got your quote ready? Okay, Doc.
I have a quote.
Oh, I like that sister right there.
Oh.
All right, y'all can go first.
Okay.
Who's first?
I'll go first. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. That's Carl Sagan.
Nice. That's hard to follow up.
You gotta think about it. It comes to you.
Mine is, it is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. Asada Shakur.
You just said that because you got your little shirt on.
Hey, I'm loving my shirt though.
I saw that.
You're not a real revolutionary if you ain't got Asada.
Okay.
I referenced this during the break, but my quote is going to be, I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change, but I am changing the things I cannot accept. Angela Davis.
There you go.
I like
And mine is short and to the point. I think, therefore, I am not Republican. Y'all have a great day. Don't forget to join me tomorrow morning for the weekly sports magazine. We'll get into some other stuff. We'll talk a little bit more about Kobe Bryant. And did Jay-Z and Bey sit during the national anthem?
They did.
The dickens you say.
And there's a video rotating on social media of the president dancing during the national anthem at the White House or somewhere with a bunch of people. And everyone was standing around him just watching him.
Yeah.
Even Melania was having her hand over her heart.
More from the pathological liar of the United States, better known as Plotus.
Clan in
Right.
chief.
All right, folks, y'all have a good day. We'll talk to you tomorrow, and y'all be careful this weekend.
I'm glad they sat down. I would too. If you heard the whole song, please.
And the fact that
Black Focus.
President Scott Key's family was slave owners. A lot of people don't know that either.
Join us every
That people also don't know that
on Jonet
the Star Spangled Banner, there's a verse in there that they omitted.
If you listen to the whole
Verse,
song, it's
verse
very
number
racist.
3. There's no refuge for the slave. That's what it says. But good
There's
shows.
another song that they sing. I just saw the history of it. It's another patriarchal song, and they're talking about a nigga running. It's another patriarchal song that we always sing,
The
and
ice
it's
cream
just
song.
never.
It's not this land is your land. This land
You
is
got the ice cream joint, but ice